Let's go with this extinction issue here. And let me just show this first. There's two mechanisms we propose for extinction. One is the overturning of the demographic pyramid. The other one is overturning of the ecological pyramid. Okay, and the one on the right, the ecological pyramid, has to do with mass extinctions, whereas the one on the left, the green one there, has to do with background extinctions, which we call the disappearance of one species. Okay, mass extinction is, on the other hand, a disappearance of a food chain. Okay, so that's the difference between them. And why do I bring this up? Well, someone made a comment, and he said the following. He said, those species die because their gene pool is exhausted. Genetic exhaustion, you could say, right? Well, yes and no, it's not complete. Yeah, that is one of the elements, okay? We have two issues here. The first one is that there's an overturning of the demographic pyramid. Okay, that means that you see there on the right what happens usually with humans, that the population pyramid overturns. We become older and we have fewer children, okay? And so if this process continues, well, just peg it into the future and you'll find out what happens. What happens is that we produce fewer and fewer children and we have more and more old people. At some point, there's a critical point where the old people have to go and the young people are not there to replace the population. That's what it happened. That's happened to us already, and there's no way to overturn a population pyramid once it starts. And ours started in 1963. Okay, that's when we had the last highest level of reproduction on Earth, growth rate. It was at 2.3. Today it's around 1.0, and they figure out that if everything goes as it's going now, by mid-century we're going to have zero population growth, known as ZPG, meaning the population pyramid of humans has pretty much completely overturned by then. And that means we will be producing fewer and fewer children, and more and more older people will be dying, and so the population will go in negative growth across the planet as a whole. Some countries will produce more children, others less, but in general the population on Earth will be decreasing on its own. We need to do nothing about it. Okay, and the other issue for this fellow, one is the genetic diversity, and this is how I illustrated in my book there, the Neanderthal book. We say that when a species migrates out of the main branch, main trunk, you could say, and this is just a branch that moves out to a different region and kind of becomes isolated from the trunk, well, they meet other factors like diseases, climates, predators and prey, foods, etc. And at the beginning, this new species that is created diversifies quite a bit. In other words, they're getting bombarded by new factors around them, environmental factors. And because of that, the genetic diversity increases pretty much, I would say, rapidly. But then at some point, when they become settled, they migrate and they don't interbreed with any other species. What happens is their genetic diversity steadily declines. Okay, and especially when they get to the last stage, which is sedentism, when they do not migrate anymore. What happens at that point in time, or starting at that point in time, is the genetic diversity essentially is shot. It just there's no new material entering the gene pool other than the daily mutations, but they're overcome usually by population bottlenecks and founders effects. So that's essentially the curve that I say happens to all species, whether plant or animal. I call it the law of genetic diversity, but it's not a law. It's just that's the way Mother Nature runs her shop. Okay? So yeah, it's not a law. It's just people like the word law, and so I put it there. No, it's not a law. Okay, not Bill's law. Okay, or whatever. So there's two components. One is the overturning of the population pyramid, and the other one is the genetic diversity. And that happens to all species no matter what. No species lives millions and millions of years, okay? They think they do, but they don't. If you take maybe the lungfish of today and you compare them with the lungfish of, maybe, what is it, Carboniferous or Devonian or whenever they came around, one would think of the other one as a Neanderthal. Say, hey, you're very different. I'm not going to have sex with you. You know, there's no reproductive sex between such species. So that entity over there is a different one than the one over here. You know, so they're not the same. You would have to have continued breeding forever in order to achieve that. And when you do that, what you get is two things: the overturning of the population pyramid of that species and the loss of genetic diversity. Those two trends are inevitable in the long run for any species of plants or animals. Okay, and then another fellow, well, not another fellow, this came out of an article. So the scientists identified 7 star systems that may be hosting alien megastructures. And what are they talking about? Well, they're talking about all these science fiction, which they call science, where civilizations evolve. They become super intelligent, I guess. That's the way they see it. And by that they mean that they manage to acquire technology and knowledge and intelligence and whatever to be able to not only travel to the stars, but somehow harness the energy of all these stars and maybe create some galactic civilization. The whole galaxy belongs to them. They're owners of it all. And what they do is use the energy of the stars to power whatever they have to power, and they have these dreams of how these aliens, essentially manage to conquer first the star system, maybe a solar system, then a couple solar systems, eventually the entire galaxy. And this is nonsense. This is poppycock. It has no place in science, but these people think they're scientists and they study all these things. And there's one group that, in fact, where this came from, really, and it's a futuristic group. They're called Project Hephaestus. And what they do is they study, all these, or they look for, not that they study, but they search the skies for this dream where they want to see some kind of galaxy out there or maybe a star system, a group of stars where some civilization out there has managed to, conquer it and harness the energy and live off of the stars, etc. And they look for it out there. That they spend their valuable time looking for all this nonsense. Okay? And they're trying to find out whether they can see some aliens out there moving around, maybe, or not the aliens themselves. The telescopes may not be able to search to such degree, but they want to see the big structure. They're going to interpret whatever structure they see out there, some light, some fancy light, and they're going to, there's a civilization that has developed to the point where they conquered all these stars and they're thriving with all their energy that they steal from the stars, and they live happily ever after. Another group that does this, aside from the Hephaestus, is the famous SETI, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And they've had all these people who study the skies that look for some kind of intelligence out there, maybe a signal, maybe a noise that comes down to us, and they're going to try to interpret it as, this has to do with some civilization out there that sent us a message. And of course they hire very high-priced people like Morgan Freeman to represent them, to see if they can get more funds to search the skies for this nonsense. And so why is it nonsense? Why is it poppycock what these people are doing? Well, because we have no chance whatsoever of seeing another civilization in whatever little time we have left here on Earth. As human beings as mammals, right? The mammals are undergoing the sixth mass extinction, and we will be gone, I'd say, quite soon, geologically speaking. In fact, I think those people living today, are part of the last generation of humans on Earth. There will not be great-grandsons or any of those things come in the future. Okay, so what's the story? The story is that, we barely can get to Mars, and here we are as advanced as we can possibly be. Technologically, we've mastered electricity, magnetism. Not that we know what they are, but we mastered the technology that are based on electricity and magnetism. We violated gravity. We can leave the planet, with our rockets, etc. And we haven't even gotten to Mars. We probably got to the moon. I think we did, but I don't think we're going to get to Mars. Maybe we might. We're that, iffy there. We might make it, we may not. But for sure, we're not going to settle Mars. We're not going to colonize Mars. There's no purpose to do so. Okay, we're not going to terraform Mars. None of that will happen. The best we can do is just get to Mars and say, hey, we made it, plant whatever flag we plant out there and then come back. That's about it. And I doubt that even that might happen. But it could. And so this notion that intelligence grows exponentially over time, what they call the singularity, where after you hit that point in technology, everything just multiplies exponentially because the robots or the AIs do the thinking for us, and they can do a lot better thinking than humans and so on. Well, all that is poppycock. All that is science fiction. It's not even science fiction. I think it's just fantasy, which is, I think, a higher degree than science fiction. We cannot even leave our solar system. And that's happened to any other civilization that ever lived in the universe, just like us. In other words, if there were humans out there, human-like people, creatures or whatever, they reached as far as we did, and then they became extinct. That's how it is. That's how Mother Nature planned it. There's no chance of living forever, millions of years, and being able to do the things these people think, that they're just going to colonize the solar system and then the star systems in the vicinity, and then eventually the galaxy. Never happened, never will. Okay, it's just not in the cards. And so, what's the issue? The issue is that here we are. We're listening and searching for intelligent signals from another. I think I was disconnected. I'm not sure if I'm still there. I hope I'm connected again. I was disconnected momentarily. I don't know why. Okay, let me continue. I hope I'm still on. Can someone please confirm that you can still see me? I received a message from YouTube that I was disconnected. Okay, thank you. Anyways, the issue is that if there's another civilization out there with at least as much technology as we have, okay, today on Earth, they're very far away in the issue of distance, right? Question of distance. But more than that, there's an issue of time. They certainly will not develop at the same time that we did. In other words, they're not going to reach our level of technology at the same time that we did. They probably already did hundreds of years ago, more likely millions of years ago, and likely have not yet developed it. In other words, again, millions of years in the future. So it's more a question of time than it is one of space. But space also, we look around in the region where we live, in our neighborhood, and we can't find any signs of life. And so life is very scarce out there in the universe. You can tell that just in our solar system, we're the only planet with life, okay? And so that's just in our neighborhood, real small neighborhood. If you go out there and you look through the stars in the neighborhood, same thing. You'll find very little signs of life. You know, they can speculate and say, oh, this plant might have water, this plant might have oxygen, etc. But to see a civilization in one of those planets, one of those few planets that might have water and oxygen, and have it at the same time as us, the same level of development, it's next to impossible. So it'll never happen, not in what little time we have left. And so all these people like SETI and Hephaestus, they're just wasting their time. That's my 5 cents worth, okay?